Folks, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Enjoy the show. Folks, we are back. We are here. We're doing a little Friday night flight right here. It's late night. It's 9 p.m. You know what that means? We're going to crack open a cold one on the air, and that exploded a little bit more than I wanted it to. How about that? Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. You do love that. I don't have a drink. I feel bad. I should have known.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind drinking alone. I was all by myself. I'm not an alcoholic, I swear. No, I don't mind a little Friday night beer by myself, and I have lovely Eraser Hood from Love City, a fantastic Philadelphia brewery right here.
Good. Yeah,
love some Love City, and yeah, we're gonna enjoy a little Friday. It's Friday night. Your boy turns another year older tomorrow, so we gotta have a cold one.
Tomorrow's your birthday?
Yes, sir. The odds, baby.
Dude, how did I not know this?
I get stabbed in the chest every birthday, and it's wonderful. Please don't stab me.
Wait, this is crazy. How did I not know your birthday? I feel like this is something I should have known.
You sang me happy birthday very awkwardly last year, too.
Yeah.
When we recorded.
So, I guess I just didn't
Dude, I forget people's birthdays constantly. It's just part of being an adult.
I mean, yeah, you're right. But still, I feel like an asshole for
Oh, it's fine. I forget people's birthdays constantly. Don't feel like an asshole. But yeah,
well,
I'm going to have a cold one, and we're going to...
We also need to keep in mind that tomorrow's also Maddie Campbell's birthday. So Maddie, happy birthday to you as well.
Every day is Maddie Campbell's birthday. She's her birthday is everything everywhere all at once over there.
Yeah, it's a known fact. For those who don't know, Maddie Campbell, BSH, longtime writer, and now with PHLY, has for years there's been like a bit in the BSH Slack that like whenever it's someone's birthday, the entire Slack will just say, "Oh, happy birthday, so and so," and then in parentheses it'll be like, "Oh, also happy birthday, Maddie."
It's a great tradition
because every day is Maddie's birthday. So
one of our finest traditions over there. And so for the big day, I went and I impulse bought myself a jersey that doesn't fit me, but it looks fantastic. I'm very happy about it. Of all my Flyers collection, I had not bought a new. Well, this is actually a real good like vintage one of the white jersey from the 80s and 90s. So not only did I find one at a local vintage store, what was the place called? I just said it a couple minutes ago. I already have forgotten it. Something. Thunderstruck.
Yeah.
Thunderbird. Salvage. They put up this dope Rick Tocchet jersey. Sold by Modell's. Modell's is actually the logo on there. It's not like Adidas or anything or Nike. It's Modell's.
I did not. Okay, we were talking about this before the show started rolling, and I just assumed that was like a legit, like, from CCM or from, whatever.
I mean, it's from the era, but I think at that point, like, because like, I'd have to ask an older person who was around for that, but like, sports jersey production didn't really become like a big fashion thing until like the mid 90s. And then like, you had occasionally like people put them out there, but yeah, I think Modell's would like directly make it at some point. I mean,
I feel like
it is legit because it's got all the holes and shit. Like it's the mesh, like and that's like a very legit, like 80s, 90s way of having the hockey jersey before it became like more of a smooth material to whatever the hell it is now, where they don't even like sew shit anymore. It's just like, it's all ironed on, and I miss the old days of jerseys right there. That's one thing that has definitely gotten worse with the NHL over time is jersey manufacturing.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll also say is I remember when I was younger, I wanted I was constantly getting like Eagles jerseys. So this is back in like the mid to late 2000s. So I'm talking the McNabb, Westbrook, Dawkins era. And it always bothered me because like I would get these jerseys from, wherever, and it would have the 36 for Westbrook, but like it would have the holes through like the number, like the holes. Like,
Oh yeah. So
you know
it's
what I mean?
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like when you saw the jersey, like the actual jerseys that they wore, which like at the time they sold basically like exact replicas of the jerseys that they would wear on the field. And those were stitched, like the numbers were stitched on. And I always
I think those cost like $100 more or something.
Dude, they cost like $300. It was crazy. Yeah. Like I wish I had invested in one of those when I was younger, but
well, those definitely aged better than the ones I had, because I had all the ones with the holes, and the numbers have like rubbed off of those. Like
I know.
I wore my Trot jersey on here a few weeks ago, and it's held up pretty well, but like there's definitely a lot of fading on the numbers, and like I have a Doc jersey too. It's like the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, stitched on is the way to go, and it is unfortunate how so many jerseys, and it's not even just NHL either. It's football. I've never bought an NBA jersey or an MLB jersey, but I imagine it's the same for those.
Oh, I will tell you based on MLB, because I have some. So I still have a couple of Phillies jerseys from, oh my God, 20 years old. They're 20-year-old Phillies jerseys now. This is insane. But like I have a Jim Thome and a Ryan Howard from back then.
Okay.
And that shit is held up immaculately. Like
really?
Those are stitched on numbers. They look great. They're awesome. I have an Utley jersey that's not held up as well. From when they won the World Series. The World Series patch is immaculate, but like the numbers they used are not as good. But New Era made at least the Thome and the Ryan Howard jerseys, and New Era was the shit. Like MLB getting rid of New Era was a huge mistake.
Yeah. You know what? I'm actually going to give some credit to Fanatics, because so far, from what I can tell, the NHL jerseys have been pretty good. From what I can
They've
tell.
held up okay. I thought that the ones that they made for Detroit and Columbus, while they looked fairly aesthetically pleasing overall, they looked cheap nonetheless. Like it all looked like very like cheaply manufactured.
I didn't even like the designs for those. I didn't.
Well, I thought like they were okay. They were kind of bland, like I much prefer the other Cannon jersey for the Blue Jackets, like the one that they're like official alternate jersey. Like I don't know why that isn't their primary.
I was going to say it's so good. Like
it's so good.
That honestly would be such a good like primary logo too. Like make that the jersey and then make that the logo. Oh my God, dude. Like maybe make a couple like tiny alterations to that jersey, but for the most part, like keep it basically what it is. Maybe like change the font of the numbers, but like aside from that, that is a near flawless jersey and logo. And it's so annoying that the Blue Jackets haven't totally embraced that to be like their just go-to home jersey.
I agree with that. And it's almost as equally annoying that the Red Wings even like try to make other jerseys, because like the Red Wings home and away are perfect. There is no notes. It's one of the best jerseys of all time in all of sports. I think it's just an insanely clean look. Like I had no love for the 90s Red Wings because, they obviously trashed my 90s Flyers, but man, what a look. I mean, it's a timeless look. They barely ever changed it.
Right. Yeah. And that's what makes it so special, is the fact that it's like the exact same as it's always been, And I think you could make the argument for, honestly, I feel like you could make the same argument for the Maple Leafs now too. I feel like the Leafs and the Red Wings have like perfect jerseys, like flawless, no notes. They're excellent. And they should never be touched ever again.
Now, if the Flyers would just add a couple details, like, I don't know, the piping right here might be perfect again, but what are you going to do?
I will say I could do without the nameplate, the white nameplate. That's my
I don't like the nameplate, but like,
I can see,
but like, I don't know. I think that it's really like missing like some contrast between the orange and the white and white and the orange, the inverse, if you will. So
Yeah.
it's like, I still feel like it's almost there. Like it's a decent look, but like it could be better. In my mind, it's never going to get better than 80s, 90s, orange and white and orange, and then the black alternate was great. And then the other great one, in my opinion, and I think you agree with this, is the Winter Classic from 2012.
I wish that they honestly, if the Flyers announced that was their first, like that was their new primary,
even just having in the alternate mix.
Yeah, having it in the alternate mix would be great too. It's certainly better than that godforsaken all black thing. I swear to God, I don't know what it is, but the Flyers always, it's like they know when I'm going to be in the arena. Whenever I'm there in the press box, they always wear that goddamn black jersey, and I can never tell who I'm looking at because it's so hard to read the numbers when you have bad eyes and you're from a distance and you're looking down and you're like, is that Cam York or is that who is that? So,
dude, I've been close to the ice with those jerseys and I can't tell who it is. It's terrible. Right. Like they're unreadable. And it's a shame because like it's almost an okay jersey, but the numbers and the nameplates are so bad.
Yeah. I'm really, really hoping they dispose of that very soon, because
just bring back if you want to do a black jersey, you've done it right before. Just bring back that look. It was pretty much perfect.
They're already kind of gravitating towards like that era anyway. So like, why not just make a black version of that?
Right. I think, and well, they know it'll sell too. Like, how many people are going to buy Michkov versions of that when it comes out? I mean, come on.
There's going to be a ton. So
you got to think about your boy Matvei Michkov.
Yeah, I wouldn't be stunned if they come out with like a new third jersey at some point, but I don't know when that would happen. But
well, I mean, I'm probably going to wait for the next unnecessary outdoor game that they play.
See, that's what I hate. I feel like they wear the outdoor jerseys inside. What's the point of that? That's like, that totally defeats the purpose. Like, you wear the outdoor jersey. I think you're supposed to wear the outdoor jersey once, and that's for the outdoor game.
But we were just talking about how much we love those Winter Classic jerseys, and they were an alternate for a long time.
Yeah, fuck off, Steve. Yeah, I mean, you're right. But I don't know. It's the big numbers that annoy me. Like, because
the big numbers are horrible.
Yeah, it feels like most of the outdoor jerseys now, they have like those massive numbers, so people in the fucking nosebleeds, like 300 yards away, can see. And it's just like, dude, like, you know what I mean?
As somebody who was at one of those games, I can tell you it didn't help.
No,
it didn't help. You couldn't see shit up there. I had a great time, but I couldn't see shit up there. It was terrible. But let's I think this is a good time to let's get into it, and let's talk about some hockey stuff, and let's talk specifically about the trade deadline has happened. Yes. The Flyers did what they had to do. We kind of talked a lot about Scott Laughton and what he meant to the team last week. So I'd say if you want to hear us talk about that, go listen to last week's episode, because we talked a lot about that and just like how special Scott Laughton was and how much he meant to the team. And I think you've seen just how special and how much he meant to the team by how shitty they played prior to last night's game. So we're recording this Friday night. I'm talking about the game against Tampa Bay Lightning on Thursday night. Before that, they had lost 5 in a row, all at home. Just a god-awful homestand. Season ticket holders have to be miserable. And they looked completely gutted for the first couple games after Scott Laughton was traded. Now, part of that was also the fact that it was half an AHL lineup. You're still missing Garnet Hathaway, and Scott Laughton was traded. Andrei Kuzmenko was traded. So you really did not have that many NHL forwards. You probably had like 2 legit NHL lines, and then poor TK was stuck on a line with like Ryan Poehling and Ulla Lycksell, which before last night looked like, man, I feel bad for him being stuck on that line, but then Bobby Brink just destroyed with that line last night.
I mean, you lose an entire line's worth of NHL players. So quite literally, you're like, that's an AHL. You're playing with an entire AHL line. Like 25% of your lineup is AHL players. So yeah, that's going to affect you. And
Rodrigo Abols, like, I like Rodrigo Abols. Rodrigo Abols is not an NHL player.
No, he's not. No, like, you could argue whatever you want to argue, but like he's an AHL guy, and that's just what he is. And I don't think I think most people would agree with that. But yeah, like it is funny that, you know, Konechny, he was put on that line, and then, you know, he gets taken off it, put on the Cates line, swapped with Bobby Brink, and then Bobby Brink is the guy to make Lixell and Abels kind of go after. Was it Abels who was on? No, Paling.
Paling had a great game playing with Bobby Brink, because
did.
Paling, by the way, one of the funniest things that happened last night was Paling getting, I forget if it was a breakaway or just like an odd man rush or something, but he had I think it was a breakaway, and he had a great chance, and he tried to make a move where he tried to sneak in behind the goaltender. Yeah. I think it was Johansson, and he didn't get it. And you're like, all right, you tried, Ryan. And then Ryan got another chance, and he just snuck it in there. I was like, oh, there you go. But it was a hell of a pass from the Brinkster on that one. And I don't know what got into Bobby Brink last night, but I need to see more of that over the rest of the season, because I do acknowledge that tanking is the way to go, but you don't want to see them lose every game. It's impossible to lose every game, frankly. Yeah. But also it's terrible for the young guys to just have this miserable end to the season. And I want to see guys like Bobby Brink embrace this opportunity and stand up and really like make names for themselves. And that was like that was a very inspiring performance from him last night.
It was great. And, you know, I wrote a whole story about Brink and his performance, which you can read if you visit broadstreethockey.com. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very, very much. He had a great night, and it wasn't even just, you know, the fact that he scored. Like, obviously that's what's going to get him attention. But I mean, he's been playing well for a long time, and John Tortorella even, you know, kind of pointed that out after the game. He was like, he's been playing good. Like, he just hasn't been finishing. Well, last night he finished, he scores 2 goals, and he gets a really nice assist. He actually, it was the secondary assist on that Ryan Paling goal that Bobby Brink got, but it was still an excellent play for Brink, because essentially Owen Tippett kind of like shoveled the puck deep into the offensive zone. Bobby Brink flies in after it, wins the race, you know, he kind of shields the puck with his body along the boards. And then, oh my God, somebody's calling me. And then,
I think it's John Tortorella.
Is it John?
It's John Tortorella. It's Tortsed. He's going, hey, I heard you talking about me, Quigs.
John,
you got to get your name out my mouth. What you doing?
Yeah, it's going, John.
It's Tortsed. Okay. He's calling into the show. Friends, first time, long time. It's John Tortorella. He's calling up to express all of his distaste with us. He's like, Steve, you rely on the oh, wow way too much. Oh, wow.
Hold on. Let me send a text real fast.
All right. He's sending a text. And John Tortorella, stop calling Ryan Quigley. He is busy recording a Friday night podcast.
Oh, my God.
We need this content. We need this Tangy Tent out there. The people need it.
Okay. But yeah. Oh, crazy.
That's what happens when you record on 9 o'clock on a Friday night. Everybody's trying to get Quigs out to the club. Is that where the kids still go? The club?
Clubbing, baby. Going to the club, going all over the place.
Once you hit 40 plus, you're out of touch with youngsters.
Yeah. But I can't even remember where I was. But basically, you know, Bobby Brink made a nice play, kind of circles back after, you know, that kind of dump in from Owen Tippett, gets the puck, wins the race, turns back, and then he finds Ole Lixell kind of coming in behind him, wide open, and then he feeds Ryan Paling with a nice pass through Cernak's legs to kind of set him up for that beautiful goal. But that does not happen without Bobby Brink's hustle and his kind of, you know, high effort play to get the puck and win that race. So he just had a great night. And after the game, it was actually Ryan Paling who said something really interesting. And I'm sure he's just being, you know, world's #1 hype man for your boy, Bobby Brink. But he said, you know, quote, he does the little things right, which is super important for a guy like that. He has top end skill, some of the best I've seen. And this is something that you and I talk about all the time. Like, we see that he has that offensive skill. We see that, like, every once in a while he makes a play where we're like, oh my God, like, Bobby Brink, what in the world are you doing? Like, that was awesome. And then, you know, it doesn't always work out for him. But, like, you know, when you look at things, you know, overall, Bobby Brink, throughout the season, he leads the entire Flyers team, like including Travis Konechny, Owen Tippett, Matvei Michkov. He leads the entire Flyers team with 2.18 5-on-5 points per 60 minutes. He's a monster at 5-on-5. Like, he's literally the best 5-on-5 player on the entire Flyers team. And it's just, it makes you wonder, what would his numbers look like if he was playing on even a somewhat competent power play? Because he's getting power play time, but the power play is bad. So it makes you wonder when, what his numbers would look like if the power play were efficient.
Well, one of the comps I brought up when I was discussing this with Bill in the PHLY postgame last night was JVR when he was with the Leafs, where JVR had a tremendous amount of success with the Toronto Maple Leafs when he was playing third line minutes and he was playing a lot of power play time. And obviously Bobby Brink is a very different player than James Van Riemsdyk, both in style and size, but as far as that offensive upside and the defensive responsibilities and the ice time and everything, I think they're comparable in that respect. And I think he's the kind of guy you really want to maximize his talent. He's around, around 30 points right now, right? And you can see him being, he's got a very good chance of maybe getting around 40 points by the end of the season. We'll see how that goes. And if he could turn into like a 40, 50 point player a year, that could be a really valuable part of this team.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he can. I truly think he has the ability to be a key offensive player for this team for a while. I'm not saying he's going to be some sort of 60, 70, 80 point guy. Like, I don't know all that, but I do think he can be a nice scoring piece on this Flyers team for, when they do, and we've spoken about this before, when they get good, will Bobby Brink be in the picture? I think he will. And I think he'll be a kind of important player for the team. Maybe not, Matvei Michkov level, maybe not Travis Konechny level, but I do think he has the potential to be a legitimate point producer for the Flyers when they're competitive again.
Yeah. And that's huge, to be honest, because a hockey team is a lot more than just your top six, right? Like, you need a lot of parts to make a damn good hockey team, and you need depth, and you need to have guys who can win those matchups when you throw the third line out there. He could even be a second line player. I don't see him as a top line player, but he could definitely be like a solid, like, second, third line player, middle six player. And I love that. And it's also, you got to think about cost. You got to think about salary cap, and you can't be paying everybody. Like, if you could just pay everybody like a top line player, then you'll get all the free agents, but that's just not how it works with a salary cap. Now, hopefully with the cap going up a bunch, you can get a little bit more of that, a little bit of more like, hey, we have an ownership that's willing to spend the max so we can just outbid some teams for some top end talent. But that's a story for another day. We got to just think about how to build this team as it currently is. And when we talk about the guys that are key pieces of the next good Flyers team, we talk a lot about, Michkov, obviously. Konechny is a big part of it. Forrester comes up a lot. Noah Cates is an interesting one because he's a little bit older than some of these guys. So we're not quite sure about Noah Cates, but Bobby Brink, 23 years old, he definitely could be a part of it. And I love seeing this stuff. I would love to see a strong finish to the season from him, Michkov, obviously, and Forrester, just the guys that are your cornerstone, not even necessarily cornerstone, but potentially big pieces of the Flyers being good for the next few years.
Yeah, I think so. And, it kind of inspires a lot of confidence in just the Flyers in terms of, how they develop some of these young players. Like, we're already seeing, and people are going to say what they will about the whole John Tortorella Michkov thing. And I think there's some serious weight with that. I do wonder if maybe Tortorella is the best guy to be coaching Matvei Michkov. Personally, I don't think he is, but that's also,
I got to say, we have another player that I want to discuss as far as John Tortorella goes later in the show. Yeah. So we can even get into it in a couple minutes, but yeah, like, there's a couple guys that there is a concern with Torts' coaching style, but there are also success stories. And I think Brink is currently looking like one of those. Travis Konechny, I think, has been a huge success under Tortorella.
Noah Cates.
I think Tyson Forrester's developed very nicely.
I think so.
Yeah. So you've
And
got success stories.
yeah, and I am excited to see what these players could look like with a more with a coach, with an eventual head coach who maybe gives them a little bit longer of a leash, kind of encourages them to take some chances a little bit more, be a little more risky in their play. I know, John Tortorella says yes, like, take risks, like, Jamie Drysdale. You're not an NHL defenseman if you're not going to be aggressive offensively, which I agree with. But like, he says that about a lot of guys. But then, when Matvei Michkov, leaves the zone a little bit too soon, he ges benched for 2 straight periods. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And that's a problem because we are paying at this point. Well, I'm not paying. I've been to one game all season, but the people who are paying to come to the stadium, the people who are paying, I will say I'm paying for YouTube TV, and I'm paying for it just to be able to watch sports. And the Flyers are like the main part of that, right? Like I mainly playing YouTube TV to watch the Flyers and the Phillies. So like, as a paying customer, right? Like I want to see Matvei Michkov, and I think that's what everybody in the stadium's saying. I want to see him do something special. We have a special player. I want to see him do something special. And people don't complain when Alex Ovechkin leaves the zone early. People don't complain when Patrick Kane leaves the zone early, and all these other offensive superstars that aren't really known for their defensive prowess. And I do want Matvei Michkov to be as complete a hockey player as he can be. And I do want him to learn the fundamentals. But at the same time, I want to give him maximum room to grow his game and be as creative offensively as possible, because he is a special player. What he has done this rookie season is something that we haven't seen. I mean, you can't really compare it to the Lindros and Michael Renberg numbers because that's a different era entirely and everything. Like you had multiple guys over 100 points in those seasons, right? Like it's pretty rare when you get like a lot of guys over 100. You might get like 3 or 4 guys, right? But you don't get like 10 guys over 100 points. So when you get a guy, and I think the numbers compared, like he's having the best rookie season of any Flyer over the past like 25 years, basically. Yeah. Like you can just tell how special he is. The fact that he's second on this team in points right now is wild. Like he's very clearly, he's a rookie. He's 20 years old. It's like, he's so young.
He cannot buy a beer yet.
He can't buy a vodka. He cannot buy a vodka in the city legally right now. I will buy him that vodka for him. Don't listen to the cops.
Mike's Hard Lemonade? He can't buy it.
He can't buy it. He can't
buy Mike's Hard Lemonade.
He can't get twisted with a twisted tea.
Unbelievable.
None of that.
Crazy.
Philly, apparently, by the way, big time twisted tea drinkers. Who knew?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's too malty for me, but whatever. But Matvei Michkov can't buy it. That's all that matters. But what he's doing as a rookie is outstanding. I mean, he's on the verge of 50 points right now, and he's gotten himself back in the Calder race. He's probably not going to win it at this point, but who gives a shit? Because this year doesn't matter.
He's here, and he's ours.
He's ours.
And he's beautiful. Like, that's the whole thing.
He's beautiful. Like, we complain a lot about the shootout and everything, but isn't it nice to have somebody who's like really good in the shootout now? Yeah, to have a guy who's confident and a badass. Like what he did last night in the shootout, where he just goes up, and I feel like teams do this against the Flyers all the time, and it drives me nuts. So to see somebody come up, and he just did the thing where he comes up and he just took a fucking shot and he just beat the opposing goaltender. And then he did the badass, like bring it up. Like, oh my God. Like,
he did like that on that. I like that he has kind of a nice set of like moves to kind of pick from too for shootouts. Like we've seen him do a number of different moves, and the one he used last night was kind of this interesting kind of like little stutter step thing before he just kind of unleashed the puck. And I feel like that just kind of fucks with the goalie a little bit. But yeah, like he's an electrifying player, like, and he's just easily the highest skilled player the Flyers have had since Giroux. And honestly, maybe even longer than that. I mean, I don't know if Giroux's had this kind of skill before because, listen, Giroux was phenomenal. He was outstanding.
He's an all-time Flyer, but
like, when Michkov hits his ceiling and when he's at his, I'm talking like 3-4 years down the line, it's really wild to think about what he could look like then, because he already looks like the most dynamic player on the Flyers. And that's not a slight to Travis Konechny. Travis Konechny's also a very, very good player, but like Michkov can do things that Konechny cannot do. And that's just a fact.
I remember when we were first talking about Michkov coming over and we were talking about who the Flyers' best player is. And we're like, it is Travis Konechny for now.
Yeah.
But it's going to be Matvei Michkov. And it was, when we discussed it before, it's a matter of like, okay, is it going to be within like 2 years? Is he the best player? Like 3 years, 4 years? Like who knows how long it's going to take, because we didn't know how he was going to look coming over here and how his game was going to translate to the NHL. I think, and this might be a hyperbolic statement, but this is Flyperbole, so it's appropriate. He might be the Flyers' best forward as early as next season. Because with this season under his belt, with the NHL conditioning, now he's got the North American training regimen. He's got the Flyers facilities, and the Flyers have top-notch facilities. You know, the Flyers take care of their guys, and he's going to have some like workout maniacs he gets to work out with. And he seems like he's going to be like, he's so competitive that I'd be very surprised if he came in next season and wasn't that much better conditioned. He's also still growing, right? Like as a human, he has not fully matured.
He may still grow like 3 inches. Like there are some people do that. Some people are like, you know, they grow 3 inches and they're like 22 years old or some shit. Like that happens sometimes.
Yeah. But like his body is not finished like maturing into the man body. And like, it's crazy to think he's going to get stronger and everything.
Yeah. And the thing with him is like, you remember what happened when he first like got off the plane to Philly. Like the Flyers like tweeted all these photos of, you know, him getting off the plane with the fucking Phillies hat, you know what I mean? And then like 2 hours later, they're like back to work or something like that. And Matvei Michkov was just like going ham in the gym after like a 29-hour plane ride or something. I know it was not 29 hours.
It was a long time though.
Ridiculous plane ride. And he immediately gets off the plane. He's like, let's hit the gym. Let's roll. And like, you have to imagine that that's how he's going to attack this offseason, because we've already seen him do that. Like we've seen him just attack it head on and just go balls to the wall super hard in the gym. And I feel like that's just going to be what his entire offseason is like, I want to be in peak physical condition. I want to be, you know, like, I just want to, I will like Russian, I will break you like physique. And that's what I'm thinking will happen, you know? So,
man. And that's the thing is about Tortorella's style, you know, it is concerning to see him benching him for an entire period. And on the one hand, you can make the argument like, okay, he gets to observe a little bit. He gets to learn a lesson, but like, I want him out there. I want him playing. I feel like that's the best way for him to learn. Yeah. And it sucks not seeing him out there. It pisses me off when I don't see him out there. And, you know, you're also starting to see like, you see the success stories, but then like Cam York was a guy we talked about being a John Tortorella success story, but it might have taken a turn recently. And we could be talking about a potential rift there. It seems like Cam York has kind of run into some problems this season, and he's due a contract right now. Yeah. So it's a little interesting that it hasn't been finalized. You know, they haven't worked something out yet. And the thing is, the Flyers have to figure out, do they want to make a big commitment to him, or do they potentially want to move on from him? Because it's already been a big season for the Flyers in regards to moving on from guys. Like I keep harping on it, but like those Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee trade, like that Morgan Frost Joel Farabee trade was a really big one for this club. Yeah. Like that was a clear sign. Like we are not going to just commit to being the same mediocre club this year. We are going to try something new. It might be painful for the short term, and it is painful right now. They've been playing like shit. They've been terrible. Yeah. But you know what? It is way better for the future to move on from those guys, try something new. And I'm also really glad, we didn't talk about this, but I'm really glad they also dealt Kuzmenko. I know it was only a 3rd round pick, but getting anything for Kuzmenko is really good. Kuzmenko was fun, but like, I'm glad they quickly realized, like, we don't need to be hanging on to this 29-year-old in the lineup, this inconsistent guy. Like, we're going to move on and we're going to get any asset for him. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and it would have been so easy to keep Farabee. It would have been so easy to keep Frost, or so easy to keep Kuzmenko, because Kuzmenko was fun in his very, very short time with Philly. But if you're listening to this and you work in journalism, I'm sure you've heard this before. Kill your babies. That's a phrase that people say all the time. Like, there might be you're writing a story and there's this one part that you just love and it's just you're so proud of it, but it just doesn't fit in your article. You gotta cut it. You got to get rid of it. You got to cut it out. And that seems to be what the Flyers are doing right now. Steve, the Flyers are a bunch of baby killers. That's what they are. They're killing babies left and right. It's unbelievable.
Oh, they're killing babies. Oh, those monsters.
I'm thinking that should be the title for this week's Fly, to be honest, baby killers.
We'll see if that makes it on iTunes. They wouldn't even allow,
I don't know if it will. But,
what was it? Canadian birthday suit? They wouldn't allow Canadian birthday suit?
Yeah, it's weird. But no, like right now the Flyers are making those hard decisions. Like they don't want to trade. Like they didn't want to trade Farabee. They didn't want to trade Frost. They didn't want to trade. I can't really speak about Kuzmenko.
Kuzmenko, I think they wanted to trade.
They certainly didn't want to trade Laughton. Like
No.
those three players. Like these are guys who they loved and they were proud of, and they enjoyed having them around the team. They thought quite highly of those three guys, but they're like, we have to make a hard decision here. Sometimes the hard decisions are the best decisions. Sometimes the best decisions don't always feel like it in the moment. Boy, oh boy, have I experienced that recently. So like, it's just, in the Flyers have experienced that as well. So it's, that's just something that you have to kind of make the hard choice, and you got to kill your babies.
No, absolutely. Like you put it perfectly. Like that is exactly what you had to do. Like I was saying this when we had our reaction show after the Frost and Farabee trade. Like I was like having a hard time trading like their only center away at the time. It's like, it was like hard to think about watching the rest of the season without the Flyers having a guy to just play center. And it's gone surprisingly well. I mean, obviously the 5-game skid after trading Laughton didn't go very well, but like overall, like I have not missed Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee at all on this team. And that bodes well for the future. That says to me, and also seeing how I don't remember how Frost has been doing overall. I know Farabee's had some struggles in Calgary still. And that says to me that this was absolutely the right decision, because they're not guys that are really going to be big contributors to Flyers 2.0 or whatever the hell you want to call it, whatever the next phase is of this rebuild. And you do have to make some hard decisions. So it really was a declaration to me that they're willing to make the hard decisions. On that note, what did you think of the return for Scott Laughton?
Oh, I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So first, and I kind of said this before, like if you're getting a first-round pick for Scott Laughton, slam dunk. That is a slam dunk trade, and anything that you get on top of that is just a bonus. I love that trade. And it's unfortunate. Scott Laughton is, I know Sean Couturier is like the captain, but I feel like Scott Laughton was really the captain, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, because just the way the locker room talks about him and reveres him and everything, like very much so, it feels like Scott Laughton was like the leader of this team. So it was hard to say goodbye to him. Like the fact that they got a first-round pick for him shows just how good a leader he is.
Oh, yeah.
Because like if you look at his stats, if you even look at the quality of his defensive play, this guy ain't worth a first-round pick and a player. And the fact that they got that is wild to me. Like I can't believe there were people that were like, I saw complaints about that. I saw complaints about the 3rd rounder for Kuzmenko. And I'm like, this is all gravy right here. Like,
listen,
we complained that they turned down a 1st rounder for Scott Laughton. Like, no, they got the 1st rounder this time. Yeah. You take that and you run.
They got the 1st rounder. Granted, they had to get rid of a couple picks of their own, but it's a 4th and a 6th. Like, I promise you, they will survive. And then they got a good prospect in return. Like, I'm really excited about Nikita Grabenkin. He seems like a really fun dude. And
he's a big guy too.
Yeah, like he's a larger guy, and apparently he and Michkov are like kind of buds. And so Nikita Gurbankin, man, like listen, I don't know what he's going to become. I don't know what his future as an NHLer looks like. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be some sort of franchise icon. I have no idea. He's probably like, listen, most prospects turn out to be like okay third liners. Who knows? But you know what? If Nikita Gurbankin turns out to be an okay third liner, cool. That's valuable. Like he
can play with Bobby Brink.
You need to have good third liner. You know what I mean? So, we'll see what the Flyers have in him, but I'm excited about him. I feel like
6'2", 210 pounds, 21 years old.
Yeah.
I like all that because that's the other thing is like
good season in the KHL too.
This team has gotten a lot of good small players recently, but there is like a lack of size. And like, I do prefer going for the speedy guys. Like this team has historically lacked speed, but it is good to have some big bodies in there. One of the things that I've really noticed this season as a serious problem is like the lack of presence around the opposing net, right?
Yeah.
Like guys screening the goaltender, making havoc out there. I see it a lot down the Flyers end where guys are screening Sam Ersson and Ivan Fedotov and scoring goals that way. The Flyers don't do much of it. Sean Couturier is really the only guy I see doing that. Like Michkov kind of hangs to the side, but like also Michkov's what, 5'8"? How much can he really screen a goaltender?
He's a small guy. And it's funny, last night during the game, I can't remember when it was in the game, but I saw Travis Konechny trying to screen the goalie. I'm like, Travis, get the hell out of here. What are you doing? Like,
I'd rather have Nick Deslauriers try to do it in his 5 minutes of play.
Granted, Travis Konechny was like doing he was going hard. He was doing everything he could to just get in the goalie's eyesight and just like block his vision. So, I mean, credit to him for the effort, like certainly an A for effort type situation, but like, dog, get out of there.
That's what Frost was trying to do before he was traded. Like Frost was one of the only guys who would actually get in there and do it, but like you could still see over him.
He had Matvei Michkov's goal disallowed because of it. Remember?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, he backed his ass into somebody. So
that could have been 21.
Yeah, it was the night that he got traded. His last game as a Flyer, he had a goal disallowed. Goal was disallowed because he was backing that ass up into somebody. So
we don't miss you. We don't miss you at all.
Yeah. But and that's the thing. Like, I do think you need to have a good balance, right? Like, you don't want to be nothing but big tough guys, and that's what the Flyers were for so long. And maybe one or two kind of speedy guys here and there. Now it's like the Flyers are on the other end of the spectrum where it's just like a ton of smaller dudes. You want to find that like kind of healthy, happy balance where it's like you got some speed and then you got some size and physicality. If you can kind of find a happy medium there, that's a good thing. And I feel like the Flyers are still trying to figure that out. But here's the good thing. There's still time. It's not like they're going to the playoffs this year. So
there's still time. And you got 3 first-round picks coming up in this draft. So that's very exciting. You can find some good players there. Jet Luchenko, unfortunately, not the biggest guy. But I like those skills. And if we could see him, I don't know what the rules are for this, but if we could see him have a cup of coffee at the end of the season, that'd be a fun end of the season right there. Yeah. Now, the one thing I really wanted to talk about before we signed off today, as far as hockey goes, is Cam York and John Tortorella have kind of been butting heads recently. I have some quotes here from Charlie. So Cam York was scratched in a game on, I think it was last Saturday, and he was saying, obviously being scratched the other day I don't think I deserved a scratch, but that was his decision and we move on. He really kind of lingered on his decision. I mean, we haven't talked much, so I'm not sure when he was asked about it. So, a couple of quotes from Charlie O'Connor over at a PHLY, but it's Yorkie didn't sound like overtly thrilled about that scratching right there. And we've seen some other reports kind of, hinting at like maybe a rift or something and the contract coming up. Like, how concerned are you? How much smoke is there? Is there enough to warrant a potential fire?
I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about like a dark horse trade candidate. Remember, we talked about Cam York. So, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a guarantee that this offseason, they're going to trade him away or, this or that. But it certainly sounds like there's work to be done. It certainly sounds like, there's the relationship between Cam York and John Tortorella could be better. And, if there's one common theme between, a lot of the players that have gotten traded by the Flyers, recently, you look at Joel Farabee, he didn't have a great relationship with Torts. You look at Morgan Frost, we know all about that whole situation.
Up and down, toilet seat.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I certainly think there's smoke. Will there be a fire? Who's to say? But I do think that there are signs that, Cam York clearly isn't thrilled. John Tortorella clearly isn't thrilled with Cam York either. He wouldn't be scratching him if he was happy with how he was playing. So Cam York needs to be better. There's no question. Like he's certainly underwhelmed this season. I was expecting him to really, I wanted to see him take a little bit more of a leap this year. And that just hasn't really happened. So what they're going to end up deciding to do, I don't know, but they have a big decision to make because he is due for a contract. And so you have to make the decision. Is this a guy who we want to have sticking around long-term? Or is this a situation where it's just like, let's just sign him to another short contract? But will Cam York even want that? And especially if Torts is coming back, like what would that look like? So, yeah.
Right. And just because Torts' contract is almost up, I think there's one more year in his contract after this year. Just because it is almost up doesn't mean that that's the end of his coaching career. Right. We've heard conflicting reports on this. We have no idea. And frankly, John Tortorella is one of the most strong-willed, unique individuals in the sport. So I truly would not be surprised either way on if he decided to take a step back, if he decided to retire, if he decided to go coach somewhere else, or he decided to coach another 10 years. It could go any way. I really don't know. And it's an interesting position for Danny Briere to be in, both York and Tortorella-wise, because he didn't hire Tortorella. Tortorella was Chuck Fletcher's hire, and he seems like he's really ingrained in the organization right now, but ultimately it is Danny Briere and Keith Jones' call on if he stays or goes. So is he a part of the franchise moving forward? It's a big question. And then Cam York, he's in his early 20s, almost mid 20s now. And that's a big question. So how do you feel, if you're Danny Briere today, how are you feeling about signing Cam York to a long-term contract? How do you feel about him as part of the next phase of the Flyers rebuild?
It's a conflicting feeling, part of me does feel like there's some untapped potential there in Cam York still. Cause we've seen him, show off some high-end skill. We've seen that. Is he, he certainly could round out his game defensively a little bit more. We know that's what drives John Tortorella crazy, but I remember him coming out of the draft. People were comparing him, his pro comparison was Brian Leach. And we have not seen that. We have not seen that at all. And now that's granted, with all these pro comparisons, you always have to take them with a grain of salt. People are going to be like, someone will draft somebody in the 6th round. And it's like, oh, this guy reminds me he reminds me so much of Paul Coffey. And it's just like, why are you saying that? What are we doing? So
look at this, the next Pronger over here.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Poor Sam Moran.
I remember Sam Moran. I remember when Sam Moran, the Flyers drafted Sam Moran. It's like, this is the next Chris Pronger. And it's just like, no, he's not. And we saw it. He was not Chris Pronger. I promise.
Poor guy never had a chance because he had that comparison out of the gate. Paul Holmgren overdrafted him probably by a round.
Honestly, crazy. But listen, I do believe that Cam York can be a good NHL player. He's done it before. He's played well in the NHL before. It just feels like there's some sort of disconnect going on right now between him and Torts. And if Torts comes back next season, let's pretend, and again, he's under contract for one more year. If they decide to, run it back with Torts again next year, it does make you wonder, what do we do with Cam York? So I could see it going either way. Personally, I would like to sign Cam York to a shorter deal. The way
a bridge deal or something.
Yeah, the way he's been playing, you don't want to have him long term, obviously. But maybe the way I'm thinking right now, maybe give him a 2-year deal. So then whether Torts stays or goes next season, that's 1 year. But then after that, one would assume that Torts after that would be gone. Again, who knows? This is John Tortorella we're talking about. Anything goes. But you would think that going into the 2026, 2027 season, maybe, that would be new guy behind the bench. Maybe Cam York would kind of, take another step forward then. But at that point, he's a little bit older. Like, he's not even, can you even really call him a prospect? Or, I mean, he's not a prospect, but like, how much more can he really develop at that point? Right. So,
right. It's kind of similar to Travis Sanheim in a lot of ways, right? Where Sanheim, before the Provorov trade, you're like, is this a guy we can really rely upon? Is this a guy who can play enough minutes a night? And we've had mixed results on that. Like, he's early in the season, he's dynamite, right? Like, the 2 seasons without Provorov now, he started off really well, really strong. But then as the wear and tear continues, as those 25 plus minute a nights happen, he's worn down. And then by March or so, he's just making some mistakes. He's not playing as well, but he's still a solid player, but he's not really the guy you want to be like your number one per se. And I don't even know if you've seen that level of consistency out of Cam York, but I'd like to. I mean, I think if you had 2 Sanheims, essentially, right? Like, you're in good position. You still need somebody better than either of them at the top of that defense.
Yeah. I think so. I would agree with that. Sanheim, I definitely think is, I definitely think he's turned into a very, very solid first pair defenseman. I don't think he's a number 1.
I agree with that completely. I think if he's like Provorov, where if you find him the right partner, he could be excellent on a top pairing.
Right.
They haven't found him the part. I do like him and York together. I wish they were a second pairing.
Yeah.
They work as a first pairing for this team. They're not perfect, but they work for the most part. But like, you want to see more from York out of Billy. That, and again, granted, he does have some tough matchups each night playing the top pairing. Like, they are put into tough positions, but you still want to see a little bit more. So I'd like to see more. I think he can be a very good part of this team, though. But I'm also cool. Like, going back to Tortsy, I'm cool moving on from him in the next year or two. Like,
it wouldn't give me nightmares, honestly. It really wouldn't. Like,
he's maximized this team as far as I think he's gotten as much out of these bad rosters he's had. Yeah. And as a podcaster, I do want to see playoff Torts for the Flyers once, because I think it would be hilarious.
It would be fun.
But as far as watching him develop Matvei Michkov and his offensive game, some of these conflicts with York and everything, I am ready to move on. Now, one guy he's had a lot of victory with this season, Jamie Drysdale. Jamie Drysdale has looked like a different man after that long benching earlier in the season.
He's been great. I mean, he's been making plays where, he had goals in back-to-back games. He's playing with confidence now, and that's what's really standing out. And now he's just like, we used to see him, whenever he got the puck, whenever someone would kind of ring the puck around the boards and it was coming up to Drysdale at the point, he's like waiting there to get it at the blue line. And then there was a pursuing defender coming up at him. I would always have a little bit of a panic attack, because I'm like, oh God, is he going to turn? I felt like Jamie Drysdale was very prone to that specific type of turnover, where he's like at the blue line, someone pokes it loose, and then whoop, it's a rush the other way. I feel like that happened a lot, particularly with Drysdale earlier in the season. Now it feels like he's just being so much more responsible with the puck. I feel like he is just his legs. He's flying out there. He's making great plays. He's seeing the ice well. The points, they're coming a little bit more now, but we're still not getting that number 1 offensive defenseman type stat line. And we may never get that, but at the very least, he's looking dynamic. He's looking like he can he has serious offensive tools. And I'm so glad. This is one thing I will credit Torts for. I am glad that Torts has come out and said, Jamie, we said it earlier, you're not going to be in the NHL if you try and be too defensive. You need to really focus on your offensive game. And I'm glad that dialogue happened, because it's correct. Jamie Drysdale needs to focus on his offense. He's never going to be, Nick Lidstrom. That's never going to happen. he needs to focus on maybe, being a Shane Gostisbehere, a young Shane Gostisbehere or something like that. I'm not saying that, they're two totally different players, but, focus on the offense. The defense, you know what? We know what you're getting out of you. We know what we are getting out of you defensively. Give us the offense. That's what we need.
Well, because if he turns into a solid second pair defenseman who can play the power play and give you some offensive spark, that's a huge player to get, especially considering what they gave up. I mean, I know Gauthier hasn't lit the world on fire with Anaheim. I don't know that he ever will, but this is a top 10 pick for the Flyers, that they traded for Drysdale. That they didn't want to trade him. He kind of forced their hand. He definitely forced their hand on that front, but regardless, this is, this was a valuable piece of the organization, and they only make that trade because they think they're getting a valuable piece back in Drysdale. So it's been really good to see those sparks. He scored a couple gorgeous goals too. Really nice, like high skill plays.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially that backhand goal that he scored a couple nights ago. Just he comes in, he kind of recognizes that there's that soft area of the ice. Takes the puck, makes a nice little, he's patience with him. He allowed himself to get a little close into the goalie, kind of just float that backhander over. Really, really like what I'm seeing from him. And I do believe in Jamie Drysdale. I think we need some more time from him. But just ever since the Four Nations break, he's been a different player, really. And you can see it. And it makes me excited for, and I'm not getting my hopes up too much, but makes me excited to see how does he respond going into next season. Like next season, is he going to look like the right now version of Jamie Drysdale? Because if he does, that's a big win for the Flyers, I think.
Yeah, I agree completely. So just to close out the conversation, any final thoughts on Cam York, John Tortorella, Jamie Drysdale, any of those three topics right there?
Yeah, not too much.
I felt like I cut you off on a York point earlier. That's all. I just wanted to make sure I got you in. Okay, good.
Yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything for all those guys. So
excellent, because I had a fun thing I wanted to finish the show off on, and we're about 3 minutes to the end here, or we don't have to end at an hour, but an hour-ish is a good amount of time to podcast right there. Don't tell that to me and Craig back in the day, but 3-hour podcasts and such. But it's Friday night. I want to go watch a movie or something. But anyway, I wanted to talk about Scott Laughton did a thing on Instagram the other day, or TikTok or something, some sort of social media, for the Maple Leafs, where he was talking about doing an intro to Maple Leafs fans and everything. Mm-hmm. And they're asking him some fun facts. He was talking about two of his cats at one point. One of his cats is named Brucey, which I have to really appreciate as oh, wow. How about that? As somebody who has a dog named Bruce, who I frequently call Brucey, I'm like, I appreciate that. Game recognized game there, Scott Laughton. But I didn't get the dog named Bruce and said I like it and keep it. But, but he's a Bruce. Look at him. He's a Bruce. Come on. But I like that. But they asked him what his favorite TV show was, and he had to think about it for a minute. And I was stunned by his response. I was stunned by this. Have you ever heard of the show Prison Break?
I have. I've never watched it.
I don't think I've ever seen a full episode. I think I've seen bits and pieces. But Prison Break came out, to my recollection, a little bit after. It was a Fox show. Came out, I think, a couple years after 24. And 24 was a big deal for Fox, a tense thriller, the ticking clock and such. And I feel like they developed Prison Break as kind of I don't know if a successor to 24, but to go along with that action-packed block and everything. So Prison Break, though, what always got me about that is it had a very much a plot that felt like it should have just been a movie. And I was like, how are you going to make a whole TV series out of this, let alone go multiple seasons? The premise of the show, so I'll read the Wikipedia entry and then add my little part that is the big part of the premise here. But Prison Break is an American crime drama television series created by Paul Schering for Fox. The series revolves around two brothers, Lincoln Burrows and Michael Schofield. Lincoln has been sentenced to death for a crime he did not commit, while Michael devises an elaborate plan to help his brother escape prison and clear his name.
Yeah, that's a movie.
That's a movie. Guys, the elaborate plan. He tattoos the blueprints to the prison onto his body. That's the elaborate plan. So they can like figure out how to escape through the blueprints on his body.
Why don't you just write it on a piece of paper?
I don't know. Yeah, it's just like such a like. Well, I mean, you had to bring it into prison, right? You wanted to get into the prison to help him escape from the inside out.
I mean,
again,
sure.
It is a fine plot for a Jason Statham movie, right? But like to have this for an ongoing television series, this show went 4 seasons, I believe.
Did it get canceled or did it?
It got canceled, and then there was a revival.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, oh my God. So I never watched it back in the day, but I had some fun with the Wikipedia here. And I also saw the promos because I did watch like 24 and some other Fox stuff back then. Yeah. And I didn't realize, okay, so Lincoln Burrows. Lincoln is a high school dropout and a convicted felon who was wrongfully convicted of the murder of Terrence Stedman, the brother of the Vice President of the United States.
No.
What?
Is he also going to steal the Declaration of Independence?
Right? This is some real, like, I can't believe it. Nick Cage actually would be great in this movie.
So the Declaration, let's actually just shift. So National Treasure.
Whoa, I got to talk about Prison Break before we get to National Treasure.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to National. I will talk about National Treasure all day, but I am down for that talk. Don't get me wrong. I'll get another beer to talk about that. But I just can't believe that the plot of this show involved this guy getting wrongfully convicted of murdering not the vice president, not the brother of the president, the brother of the vice president, which is like just enough of a kind of give a shit, but who gives a shit category of person.
And dude, in the real world, if the brother of the vice president of the United States got like charged with any crime, they're not serving any time.
It's just like, it's like a real, like, who gives a shit? Like, so weird.
But
so
like honestly, like, would that happen though in real life?
Well, I mean, like, if you murder somebody, you're gonna get time.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe it? I mean, if you murder somebody, you're gonna get time.
Related to the president or the vice president, and you like commit a crime.
Oh, you mean like you're just, that's it? Bye.
No, I'm saying they will like just not charge you. They'll like use their like superpowers to like.
Well, no. If you murder their brother, they're not gonna. They don't want you to murder their brother.
Okay. I got this wrong. So I was thinking that Lincoln Burrows was wrong. Like he. Okay. All right.
Lincoln Burrows, who's the man who has to get prison broken out.
Yes. I thought Lincoln Burrows was the brother of the vice president of the United States.
No.
And he was wrongly convicted of murder.
Lincoln Burrows. Yes.
If that happened, then there's no way.
Well, then your point stands. Your point is correct if that was the case. However, this man is convicted of murdering the brother of the vice president, which again, it's like just on the verge of a national news headline. Just on the verge.
What the hell?
Just enough. Like,
Scott Laughton, why are you watching this show?
Why? I don't know, but I want to start a Prison Break rewatch podcast with Scott Laughton. That's what I'm into. Also, there was a recurring character, I think a regular character on the show, who went by Teabag.
Solid nickname.
Theodore Teabag Bagwell. His name was Theodore Bagwell, and he went by Teabag. What a bonkers show.
Anyone who played Halo 3 back in the day, you know a good Teabag when you see it.
That is a well-known online gamer move right there. 5 seasons. Yeah, 5 seasons of that show right there. Unbelievable. There's a secret organization called The Company that they have to deal with. So there's like a secret CIA-like organization that they have to fight back against in Prison Break.
Oh,
and Finally, season 3 of the show, they have to escape from a Panama prison. I almost would have respected them more if they had to get out of a different prison every season, and then they ended up in like space prison.
It would be funny if it was like this season, Alcatraz, and like they just keep going to like different prisons with different characters and all that.
This season, they're under the sea. They have a prison at the bottom of the ocean that they have to escape from. How will they do it?
Break into like Little Mermaids.
Under the sea.
Yeah.
Down where it's wetter. Take it from me.
What a weird.
Okay. So, yes, Prison Break, Scott Laughton, bold choice there, my friend. Now, let's finally end. You had a question about National Treasure, which, of course, listen, a good portion filmed right here in Philadelphia, PA.
Why on the Declaration of Independence?
So,
why?
Have you seen National Treasure, or you just...
million times.
Okay.
Well,
they're going with a lot of like the again, I've only seen it a couple times, but like I think the whole thing is, number one, they were thinking, what's the most audacious thing that I could have a character try to steal? I'm like, well, the Declaration of Independence, of course. And then
what else?
Number two, I think they're going with a lot of the like Freemason conspiracy theories with like people having like, you know, organizations of gentlemen that get together and make big decisions for the world kind of thing. Yes. So, and then they just get more and more elaborate, you know. National Treasure. I mean, it's given us Nick Cage, and it gave us Andy Samberg's impression of Nick Cage, where he always talks about stealing the Declaration of Independence. And
both National Treasures are 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Perfect.
No notes. Yeah, maybe that's a Flype summer movie discussion right there.
That would be a fun one. I think we should do it. I think we should do a National Treasure movie marathon.
I'm into it. We'll make it happen, Captain. I'm into it.
Let's have a watch party.
Let's do it. Let's go to like Cherry Street Pier.
We'll just watch National Treasure.
We'll just go
Flyers uniforms.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. We can root when we see Philadelphia. We're like, Philly. Undefeated right there. Well, folks, that seems like a great place to end it. I could talk about National Treasure for like 6 hours, so we'll get into that some other time. But thanks so much for listening. We appreciate you listening to this Friday night podcast that we're putting out on a Saturday morning. But hey, it's Tangy Tent for free for you fine folks. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any feedback for us, the best place is on social media, and the best place to reach me on social media is on Blue Sky. You can find me at Flyperbole or at SDBomb if it's for hockey purposes. Make it Flyperbole. It's Flyperbole on TikTok. It's Flyperbole on Instagram. Quickly, where can people find you on the socials?
Ryan Quigs with the Z. Thank you.
Oh, wow. All right, folks, we're going to head out of here. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, with the words of the great Gene Hart, good night and good hockey. I got nothing tonight. I don't know. Wow. You're never going to get hot to go out of your head.